All right, if you're in the world of commercial trucking, you know your safety record is pretty much everything. So today, we're going to break down exactly how carriers in Alberta can stay compliant and maybe more importantly, what happens when they don't.
So think about it. Is your safety record an asset or a liability? It's not just some number on a piece of paper, it's a choice. And that choice actively puts your business on one of two very, very different paths. One gives you control, and the other, well, it takes that control away and hands it right over to the government. Just look at these two paths. On the one hand, you've got the proactive path. This is where you're in the driver's seat, right? You're the one finding and fixing issues on your own terms. But then there's the reactive path, and here you're just along for the ride. Alberta Transportation is now in control, and they're the ones steering you towards audits, penalties, and maybe even a complete shutdown.
Okay, so let's dive into the proactive path, because honestly, it's the only one you want to be on. This whole strategy starts with something pretty simple: taking a good, hard look at your own operations before the government decides to do it for you.
And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? The whole point isn't about being perfect 100% of the time. Nobody is. It's about being vigilant. It's all about catching and fixing problems yourself, long before they pop up as a big red flag on the government's radar. And you know what? A self-review is probably way simpler than you think. This four-step process right here is your blueprint. First, you're going to review your carrier profile. Look for any patterns and incidents or violations. Then you dig into your driver records and your vehicle maintenance files. But hey, pay really close attention to that last one: hours of service. If you start seeing violations there, that's often the first clearest sign that you've got a bigger systemic problem that you need to fix right away, probably with some retraining. But what happens if a carrier doesn't do that? What if they just let things slide? Well, when that safety performance starts to dip, the government really has no choice but to step in. And that's what shifts you onto that reactive path we talked about. The government isn't just pulling names out of a hat. They use this really specific metric called a risk factor score for every single carrier. Think of it like a report card. It's a direct reflection of how you're doing on the road, pulling in data from convictions, inspections, collisions, all of it, right across North America. And if that score climbs too high, boom, you've officially landed on their monitoring report. Now here's where it gets really interesting. A high-risk score isn't the only thing that'll get you in trouble. A single complaint from the public, a serious collision, even just applying for a special permit can put you under the microscope. And maybe the most important thing to remember is you could just be selected totally at random. So yeah, there's really nowhere to hide. All right, so the day comes and you've been selected for an audit. What happens now? Well, it's not some vague, open-ended thing. The auditor shows up with a very clear, very structured plan. They're going to focus on 4 key areas of your business to see just how compliant you really are. So an audit really drills down into these 4 pillars. They're going to go through your carrier and driver safety files, and that includes driver abstracts, the official driving records. But they go way deeper. For hours of service, they're not just looking at your logs. Oh no. They're cross-referencing everything with supporting documents like fuel receipts to spot any inconsistencies. And for your vehicle files, they are scrutinizing everything, from the daily trip inspections to major repairs and your annual Commercial Vehicle Inspection Program records, or CVIPs. It is incredibly thorough. So after the audit is all done, you'll have an exit interview and get a full report that details every single violation they found. But here's the absolute key takeaway. It doesn't matter what your score is. You are now required to create a formal action plan to fix every last one of those issues. There's just no sweeping things under the rug. Okay. So you've got your action plan, but what are the actual consequences? Well, based on what the audit found, and frankly, how much of a risk your operation poses to the public, Alberta Transportation has a whole menu of actions it can take. And trust me, these actions can escalate, and they can escalate fast. It might start with fines, sure, but then it can move to having specific conditions slapped on your business, like maybe you can only operate in certain areas or at certain times. From there, it gets way more serious. They can cancel your permits, downgrade your safety rating, and then, the big one, completely suspend or cancel your safety fitness certificate. And let's be crystal clear about this. An unsatisfactory rating, that's the end of the line. That is not a warning. It is a legal order that means your commercial vehicles are not allowed on the road, period. Your business is, for all intents and purposes, shut down until you can prove you've fixed every single problem. Now, if you think a decision was just flat out wrong, there is a way to appeal. It's called a registrar reconsideration. But, and this is a big but, look closely at the rules. This isn't your chance to just argue your case all over again. You can only apply if you can prove one of two things. Either the government itself made an error, or you have brand new, critical information that just wasn't available before. It's an incredibly high bar to clear. And that brings us right back to where we started, doesn't it? The government has its processes, its audits, its interventions, but the real power to avoid all of that, it lies with you. By doing your own reviews, by tackling issues proactively, you choose to stay in control, you choose to keep your trucks on the road, and you choose to keep your business moving forward. At the end of the day, the choice is all yours.